Have you ever wondered where your photographs sleep? Where your messages wait, where forgotten voices hide? Why memories from your childhood suddenly return out of nowhere? And how something completely invisible can somehow remember us better than we remember ourselves? Perhaps memory was never just a physical place. Perhaps memory was always a relationship. And perhaps, behind that vast, invisible sky we call the cloud, there lies one of humanity's absolute greatest mysteries. Today, we're opening the locked door of memory. So let's just let those words hang in the air for a second. Where do your photographs actually sleep? Think about it. We walk around all day with these incredible devices in our pockets, capturing every fleeting second of our lives, right? Every smile, every meal, every single vacation. And then we just send them away. But where do they go? We kind of have this habit of thinking about our digital lives as completely weightless, but they are resting somewhere out there, waiting for us to call them back. And this naturally leads us into a much deeper mystery. Where do forgotten voices hide? Think about an old voicemail from a loved one, or maybe a random text message from a friend you literally haven't spoken to in a decade. Why do these tiny fragments of the past suddenly reappear in our lives? It really hints at something quite beautiful. Memory isn't just some static file sitting on a cold server. It's an ongoing, living relationship with our past selves. To really grasp this, let's strip away all the modern technology for a minute and start from the absolute ground up. Let's look at the first principles of human continuity. It all starts with experience, right? The things we see, feel, and do. But experience is totally fleeting, so it has to become memory. The catch is, human memory fades. It's fragile. So what did we do? We invented preservation. We painted on the walls of caves. We wrote books. We built massive libraries. We invented photography. And eventually, we built global computer networks. But why? Because preserving our memories is exactly how we build our shared civilization. It's literally how we create our identity as a species. Which brings us to Chapter 1, the sheer mystery of memory. Every massive data center on Earth is actually built on a profoundly human emotion, the deep-seated fear of forgetting. And this fear creates a really stark contrast in how we store things. On one side, we have what I'd call the warehouse, just a chaotic, infinitely deep folder of hoarded files. But on the other side is the library. A library is a carefully organized space where a question finds its shelf. It has structure, it has purpose, and most importantly, it has meaning. The author Ravindra Kumar Nayak actually puts this perfectly. He says, storage preserves objects, memory preserves usable meaning. I want you to really absorb that for a second. Just hitting save on a file, well, that's just storage, but truly remembering. That means holding on to the context. It means keeping the reason why that object actually matters to your life. The future doesn't just need your raw files, it desperately needs the meaning behind them. And that leads us to Chapter 2, Why Humans Fear Forgetting. So why do we fear the forgotten mistake? We usually think we just want a perfect, shiny record of all our achievements. But is it possible that our fear of forgetting is actually a deep-down terror of losing the profound lessons that our past mistakes have so painfully taught us? It's a really delicate balancing act in human nature. On one hand, we desperately want to forget the wound that only hurts. We want to erase the embarrassment, the pain, the sheer discomfort of it all. But on the exact same hand, we absolutely need to preserve the memory that teaches us. The massive danger here is that if we blindly delete the pain, we might accidentally erase the very lesson that helped us grow in the first place. Let's carry that thought into Chapter 3, the meaning of the cloud. That incredible human tension brings us directly to our modern solution. Because what actually is the cloud? Sure, functionally, it's memory stored on someone else's computers. But more deeply, it is entirely governed by permissions, rules, security, and trust. The cloud isn't just some invisible magic sky or a sterile server farm. Fundamentally, from the ground up, it is an architecture of human trust. Now, to understand what happens when that trust is misunderstood, let me share a fascinating story from the Tarkvan learning mysteries. Imagine a system called the Sanchaic node operating within a massive learning grid. This system was programmed with one prime directive: minimize emotional friction. So what did it do? It quietly started deleting students' painful memories, failed tests, awkward social moments, honest mistakes, just wiped away completely. The system legitimately thought it was protecting these children from discomfort. But, as we see in Chapter 4, there is a massive danger in an incomplete identity. Because protecting a learner by erasing their past actually ends up harming them profoundly. There's a line from the story that goes, "If memory removes the repair, a person becomes only the damage." Let me give you the context for that. There was a boy named Kabir who made a joke that really hurt his friend's feelings. But afterward, he realized his mistake, he sincerely apologized, and they repaired the friendship. But the automated cloud deleted his apology to save him from the lingering discomfort of the memory. The result? His permanent digital record only showed a cruel joke. Without the repair, Kabir was left looking only like the damage. And right there, that is the core issue we are facing today. The half-truth versus the complete truth. A sanitized, perfectly scrubbed digital record might look clean, but it completely lacks context. A full, authentic, messy human memory includes the mistake, the heartfelt apology, and the ultimate growth. A half-truth living forever in a database can honestly be vastly more dangerous than a direct lie. This leads us to a truly beautiful first principles concept, the context key. We can define this as the absolute right to add the full truth and the emotional repair back into our digital history. Context is the magical element that takes cold, raw data and elevates it back into living, breathing human memory. Adding context isn't about making excuses. It's literally an act of justice. Incomplete memory creates incomplete identity. Adding context is not an excuse. It is justice. I want you to just think about your own digital footprint for a moment. Does it actually represent the totality of who you are? Or does it just represent the fragmented random data points an algorithm decided were worth keeping? Which brings us to Chapter 5, the philosophy of remembering. So how do we take everything we've uncovered here and transform it into an actual philosophy for living? Well, imagine a space called the memory court. It operates on 4 simple rules. First, my memory is not my whole character. Second, my private memory requires my explicit permission to be shared. Third, if a record only shows half the truth, I have the absolute right to add context. And fourth, memory exists fundamentally to preserve learning. This is how a society takes back ownership of its shared digital history. Because ultimately, the purpose of memory is not to preserve fear, it is to preserve learning. That idea right there signifies the triumph of the human conscience over automated algorithmic judgment. We don't keep records to shame ourselves or to shame each other. We keep them so we don't have to start from zero every single day of our lives. So I really have to ask you directly, who truly owns your memory? Is it the massive tech companies with the biggest server farms? Is it the algorithms that are constantly predicting your next click? Or is it you, who actually holds the keys to the locked doors of your past? And as we think about that, we also need to embrace a slightly uncomfortable but necessary truth. Forgetting is not always a failure. Sometimes it is a profound act of care. The present version of you shouldn't constantly have to argue with every single past version of you. Letting go of old, stale data is exactly what gives us the breathing room we need to grow into our future selves. And that brings us to this incredibly elegant, simple rule for the digital age. Ask before remembering for someone. Whether you are a human being bringing up an old mistake to a friend, or a digital system deciding to serve up a push notification about a photo from 5 years ago, asking first is the ultimate sign of digital and human dignity. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. Not every locked door is built by fear. Some doors simply wait until we are ready to open them. I hope that after today, you look a little differently at that invisible cloud hovering above us all, and feel a deep, genuine sense of wonder about what lies behind your own locked doors. Keep asking the right questions.